Hello there. We are underway in celebrating our first year anniversary. And if you don't already know about it, I'm hosting a raffle and giving away more than $2,000 worth in cash and prizes. So if you or a friend have access to an Apple product, you can enter to win. For the complete details, go to sayyesToYourSoulPodcast.com. All right, here we go with another soulful episode.
I could feel my gut squeeze, like I could tell, this was going to kill me if I stayed here. And I think it was pushing me, right? It was pushing me to, okay, this is not where you belong. Keep looking, keep searching, figure it out.
Hello, I'm Tessalyn Alburn. Welcome to the Say Yes to Your Soul podcast, where we empower women to connect with their souls and shine in their business. If you are ready to embrace your brilliance, create meaningful connections, and be compensated for your specific gifts, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore inspiring stories, practical insights, unique points of view, and soulful strategies, all to help you thrive. So let's dive on into this transformative journey together. Tune in and say yes to your soul.
Hello there. We have a sweet guest. She's kind of like a stealth disruptor. When I first saw her in my Zoom room, I was like, she's so sweet. Her name is Cathy Derksen, but she's a catalyst and a quiet disruptor. She supports and inspires midlife women to rediscover their brilliance and step into new possibilities. She also founded a company called Inspired Tenacity Global Solutions, Inc. And really, this stepping into possibilities is all about like that next step, right? What is the new door opening? What are the opportunities to embrace? Cathy is an international speaker and a 12 times best-selling author, wow, who inspires her audience to dream big and take a leap of faith into reaching for their goals. She's created a platform supporting women to share their own inspiring stories in books, in retreats, and in mastermind opportunities. With her all-in-one program, Cathy takes you from chapter concept to published best-selling author in a simple, exciting process. Well, that sounds super cool. So, Cathy, I just want to welcome you. Welcome to Say Yes to Your Soul.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm excited to see where we go.
Fantastic. So, I'm kind of like waiting to see what you're going to share here today. We're just getting to know each other. You were referred by a really good friend, Julie Steelman, and I don't have all the juicy tidbits, but there is something sparkly about your energy, and I know what your mission is about. So I'm ready to have you begin sharing with our audience today some of that sparkle, some of that aliveness. Cathy, the floor is yours.
Wow, thank you very much. I love this community that you've created here. It's definitely right up my alley. I've spent the last 10 years kind of figuring out what it is I'm here to do. After spending 25 years in working in medical genetics and then feeling like I was just stuck and didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, like who am I and what am I really here for? And that's when I left that career behind. I was in the middle of a divorce and all of the chaos that comes with that. And at that time, I knew that I really wanted to help women change their life, like to have a true impact on helping women change their life for the better, to figure out what it is that really excites them in life and go do it. And at that time, I thought, well, financial issues were, a big part of a lot of women's lives. So I went into financial planning thinking, well, this is how I can really help and change women's lives. But of course, after a decade of doing that in the major banks and investment companies, he really came to realize that I was pushing their products and saying their lines, but not really having a true impact
Or
on anyone's life.
not really being yourself either.
No, especially in that very male, masculine system that the finance industry is, that it was very stifling, very. And so about 3 years ago, I came to the realization again that if I'm truly going to change women's lives and have a lasting impact that really does help them step into something else, that I had to shift again. And that's when, so I left the whole corporate world behind about 3 years ago and set out on my own. That's when I started my company, Inspired Tenacity. And that name comes from when I was in the middle of all that chaos and upheaval and getting my life, a new life, back on track. It just hit me that inspiration and tenacity are a couple of the key ingredients for really shifting and causing change, bringing change into our life. And so it came to me as the name for my company, and I loved it, so I stuck with it.
Well, I like it. I'm curious, though. I want to know a little bit about the chaos. What was going on?
Going through divorce. I had 2 teenagers with me at the time. And of course, what leads to the divorce is, I'd become a very toxic, abusive family life we had. And both my kids were also suffering from just living in that environment and the same level of all these things. And between my 2 kids, one was going on the rebellious side and the other was going on the shutdown side. And so I'm in the middle thinking, how do I save my family? And I knew that the only way to really, again, cause a true change in what was going on was that I had to leave that marriage. So, of course, that's where the chaos started, as I describe it like I threw my life up in the air and reinvented it on the way back down. I left the career I'd been in for 25 years. We sold the house, moved out.
So there you are. You're like, the divorce is happening. And also, literally at the exact same time, you're feeling this discontent and everything going on with the medical genetics thing.
Yes, exactly. Well, part of it was I was officially working part-time at that point. I was working mostly full-time hours, but my official job was a half-time. And so I was looking at the idea, well, do I just apply for a full-time in that position, or do I do something different? And at that time, my work environment was also very toxic, and it was under a boss who was very, I would say, abusive to people, very belittling and insulting, and really just kept people small. And again, that feeling of, could I see myself doing this job in this place for the next 20 years full time?
And you had a clear no to that.
I could feel my gut squeeze. Like I could tell, this was going to kill me if I stayed here. And I think it was pushing me, right? It was pushing me to, okay, this is not where you belong. Keep looking, keep searching, figure it out. So that was a lot of the chaos. And I must say, I know I made the right decision, both with the marriage and the career change. It definitely has started me on a path going in the right direction. And so when I left the financial planning world 3 years ago, my original kind of vision, of course, going on the limited scope I had of what the possibilities were, I had the idea I would go into a coaching kind of model and do like money and life coach. But that too, I just continued to feel like that still wasn't it. And one thing I've really learned to do well over the last few years has been to listen to my intuition and really follow my gut. So when my gut is telling me, nope, that's not right, I've learned to listen. And when my gut's telling me, go that way, I've learned to listen to that too.
Well, that's amazing. Can you, I think, my listeners would really like to know, like, how do you listen to your gut? Like, how do you know it's your gut, your intuition, and not like some programmed response?
Yes. Well, what I've found when I'm moving in the right direction and making the right choice, I feel lighter. When I'm struggling with a decision or forcing myself into, I think this is what I should do, and I'm forcing myself into it, I feel very I guess, stuck and heavy and just like I'm walking through quicksand or something that it's just not flowing. But when I step into something that is feeling right, I literally feel lighter. I feel energized. And so I've learned to look for that feeling and to be reflecting too on that whole idea of getting away from things that make you feel bad and going towards things that make you feel good. And I think something as women especially, I think we haven't allowed ourselves to do for a long time. For many of us, we've spent decades doing jobs we weren't really interested in or looking after everybody else and putting ourselves on the back burner. So I think we stopped listening to ourselves. We stopped really letting ourselves have that permission to step into something different or even asking, what do I want? What is it that's good for me? Because we're so used to looking first for what's good for everybody else. And I think that was one of the first big steps as well of allowing myself, like actually giving myself that permission to look at what do I actually want to do? What are those things that really excite me? What makes me feel like I truly am being of value and being of service and having an impact? And to me, I think that's one thing that so many of us crave is that feeling that we're actually having an impact, that we're doing something that when we're gone, people will remember us.
Yes, it's like, I think this is a common thread for sure. And the more I work with people and understand like some of their original, the initial programming, it seems to be very much connected to the need to know that we each matter, that we have an intrinsic value. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And that's where this following my intuition and figuring out, okay, what's that next step? What is the right thing that I'm supposed to be doing? And it really, when I was in that kind of coaching mindset, I kept feeling like this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. Moving and adjusting. And I had started getting, like you mentioned in my intro, that I've been involved in 12 best-selling books so far. Uh-huh. And I had started that journey back in 2019 when I was still working my corporate job in finance. And at that time, there was different groups of women I was associated with. And one group had been doing a few books. And I'd been aware of their books, but they hadn't really called to me as something that I needed to do until they had a book come up and they had titled it Emotional Intelligence, Mental Health Matters. And that one jumped out at me because at that time I really felt the journey that I had been on, going through this whole thing as going through the divorce, going through the career change, setting out on my own with 2 teenagers that are struggling in their own ways, and just everything I went through in that whole process in my life, I realized that I had a story that I felt could help other women going through similar things. And so that's what inspired me to do the first book I was in. And then from there, it just kind of kept coming up that, oh, there's this theme that I like. Now there's this one. Then I started getting invited into other book projects. And along the way, I found that being in the books was really valuable for me, both in helping me clarify my own story, but also hearing the impact the stories were having on the reader and the other people involved in the projects.
So you were just hearing this like secondhand from others who were already doing this, and it was starting to ring some bells for you. You're like, that's interesting. It's having an impact, that sort of thing.
Well, it was when I started actually getting involved in the books that I started seeing that side of it.
Okay.
And in the time that I have been involved in the books, and I have got feedback from people that have read my chapters and really thanked me for sharing those stories and sharing that journey and some of that wisdom that I had put out there. And so I've been involved in several projects. And at one point I was in one project that was really fun and amazing and smooth. And then I was at another project at the same time that was a nightmare. And I was so standing in the middle of these two projects, I'm thinking, there has to be a way to make it so that it's easy and fun for women to get involved in these things where they can share their stories, build a new network, put their message out there on a global scale, really kind of just, again, step into something totally different. And that's when it occurred to me. And again, stepping into this idea that now understanding that I really can create whatever I decide I'm going to create going forward.
Wow. So it doesn't matter if it's a book. It could be anything.
Anything, really. And that's been part of it. If you'd asked me 5 years ago if I was going to be involved in books, I would have laughed at you because it was anywhere on my radar. And now my whole business is focused on creating these anthology projects, focused specifically on midlife women to share their stories, connect as a group. Every book's got 20 or 25 different women involved from all over the world. So they're sharing their stories. They're meeting women they never would have met otherwise. And I've really come to see that these books truly are impacting women's lives in a huge way. And especially for women who are entrepreneurs, because the book becomes a way for them, in a way, it's a marketing tool. It's a way to get their message out there on a different platform, connecting with different networks. We do a lot of work around amplifying their business. So I've stepped into it and realized that I have now created this mission of having a true impact on women's lives that I started 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, I had no idea how I was going to do it.
That's amazing. Yes, because you had those other ideas, like it's got to fit into what you already knew,
Exactly.
What need help with finances. But really what you're doing is you're helping them create community. You're helping them to feel connected. You're giving, this platform is giving them a way to have their voice and to be heard.
Yeah. I think they say about 92% of people have on their bucket list they're going to become a published author.
Yeah, I've always been astounded by that figure. I've just never quite understood it. But yes, it's true. Yeah.
But I think what stops most people is they don't know where to begin, and they don't see themselves, like they don't hold that identity as an author. So first, not knowing how to get started, but even when they get that first clue on how to get started, they get held back with that feeling of, well, who am I to share my story? Or who am I to think anyone wants to read my book? Or who am I to call myself an author? Or I'm too old to start something like that.
It goes completely against all the programming of low self-worth.
Yes, exactly.
I imagine this could be a really interesting study to do a study of every man around the world, who's thought of writing a book, and see how many of them thought of writing a book and didn't, because I bet it's a lot fewer than women.
I wonder. Yes. Yeah, but
I'm just making up. This is the world of Tessa. All right. Yeah. So you're helping them to get started in the process. They're getting a greater attunement with their value. They're recognizing that their story, their life has had value. And they're experimenting with this identity as an author.
Yes, exactly. And the books that I do, they're all focused on being inspirational and motivating. So the three that I've had out so far this year, one was called Embrace Courage. So that was women sharing their journey in life. And part of that book was focusing on recognizing that courage isn't just those big things like rushing into the building to save the, burning building to save the child. It's those little things that we do every single day that require courage.
Yes.
For us to just get through life requires courage.
Yeah.
And one of the other books I had out this year was called Midlife Awakening. And again, 20 women sharing their journey of how they've hit this time in life when they just thought, okay, what's next? What I'm doing is not the right answer. What am I going to change? What's the next chapter? And so that one's a great one too. Just really inspiring to hear the journeys that women have been on.
Yes. And so you're like the mastermind that helps bring these concepts all together and finds or draws, magnetizes in the authors who are going to have that kind of formula, like the ones that are going to be able to share about their courage, or the ones that are going to be able to share about their awakening. Somehow you orchestrate all that. You're like a conductor.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, because that just came to me this last week. I was in a mastermind group, and that's an example one of the women used as the conductor in an orchestra. And it hit me. It's like, my God, that's exactly what I do. I am the conductor in the orchestra.
Yes. And then you have like the books are like a living thing. This is interesting. I don't know why this hit me when it did, but earlier here in this podcast, you were referring to books as like the books. And I just was like, these books are like living things.
Yes. Oh, it's like giving birth. When you release your story out into the world, it really is like, well, not as painful, of course, but
thankfully.
But that feeling of releasing something out, like it leaves you and it's out there in the world. It's, a very interesting feeling that you don't anticipate until you've gone through it.
Yes, and it's in black and white now. Unless you have purple ink. But it's there. Like, you can't take it back.
And one of the things I love about books as well is they really do live forever. Like a book that's sitting on your shelf 20 years later, anyone could pick that book up and open it and just have the same impact that it has on someone today. I mean, I know my mom's got books in her shelf that are 100 years old.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And those books, you can still pick them up and read them like any other book. So in my mind, that book will carry on for many lifetimes.
They're timeless in a way.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm just sort of having a new respect for books right now.
Yeah.
These ideas come together and shared stories. And not just ideas. It's not just characters. It's like real stories. It's real life, the pain, the suffering, the challenges, the achievements, right? Like the becoming, the champion, the overcoming, all of that is just so beautiful. We're all here with some kind of life story, with something to give to grace others, that inspiration.
Yeah, and I've never been big on reading fiction. And I think part of that is that I just see that real life has all those levels and layers to it. And I just feel much more drawn to real life stories rather than fiction.
Absolutely. So I'm curious to know, like, as you were beginning this, right, in 2019, like, how did this really begin to redefine you and your own connection to your gifts and to the truth of who you are?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been an interesting journey. And when I first set out as an entrepreneur, of course, I had no business experience. I wasn't really quite sure what I was going to do or what it was going to look like, and didn't necessarily feel that I was a leader or that I had something unique to bring. And it was just kind of an interesting step by step as I went through it, and have definitely come to, at first I thought, well, I have to be big and flashy and bold, like all these people tell you that you have to be here and there and everywhere, posting all the time and sounding like this. And that's what I thought at first. And I still, again, I was not feeling that was me. That was not the right fit. And part of, like you were describing in my intro, that I'm the quiet disruptor. So I'm not the big flashy one. I'm not the one that is all over the front cover of the newspaper. I'm the one in the background creating opportunities and creating support to help shift the directions and the confidence that the people around me are feeling. And it really helped me see that my real gifts are in connecting and bringing people together and being that support system to lift them to where they're going. So it's really been an interesting journey to see that was where I fit and that those were what my gifts were, and that now I'm stepping into using those gifts in a way that I never would have seen before.
Right. You had spent a whole lifetime not even knowing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think this is the magic, the next chapters after midlife, right? Like, our lives really are not over, and they don't have to be boring or outdated. They can be totally relevant.
Exactly. And the more I get involved in these things and the more I really stretch my network out internationally, and I've met so many women in so many communities, and it's just really hit me that really in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, I think this is really the time for women to shine. This is the time when we can give ourselves that permission to do what we're interested in doing and to really see that we're supported by a community all over the world. And one of the things I always love to remind women, especially when they are trying to start something new, step into just any kind of something they had never done before. Quite often when we do that kind of thing, our family and friends will be the ones to say, oh, calm down. Oh, you'll get over it. Don't worry. Just go back to what you're doing. It's okay. Just that you'll get over it. And, that old model of retirement, which really was to say, okay, quit your job, go curl up in the corner and be quiet. And you know what? I don't think most of us are looking for that.
I agree with you 100%. But
so getting out and away from that circle of people they're just trying to keep you safe. They're not trying to harm you. But in doing that, they're really keeping you stuck.
Yes. Crab pot. This is the crab pot.
But now with the internet and Zoom and all these podcasts, the whole world is your community. And it's so easy to connect with people literally all over the world. So I really encourage women to just step further out, meet somebody different, meet somebody new, get on some of these networking Zoom events that there's so many free events, and actually step out there and meet people, talk to people, connect with people, step into trying to do, those things that you want to do, but you've never thought you could.
Well, one of the things that prevents people, I think, is like the whole fear of technology. Right now, for some, I still know those ladies, some of them in their 60s, maybe not 50s, but 60s and 70s for sure. They're like, I don't know how to do that. It's too fast. It's too this or whatever. But that's just made up. It's just not true anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And again, there's people all over the place that are willing to help.
Yeah.
So don't let things like that keep you stuck, because the world is literally full of opportunities and possibilities. And we really can create the life that we really want to be living.
So, Cathy, thank you for all of that encouragement. And I'd love to make sure that people can connect with you. So what's the best way for them to do that and receive your gift?
So the easiest way to find me, as far as social media goes, LinkedIn is where I'm at the most. But the easiest way to find me directly is my website, is inspiredtenacity.com. And on there, there'll be tabs at the top that link you to my books that are out so far, my book projects that are on the go right now. There is a tab there, I think I called it My Gifts for You. And so you can access my gifts that way. And I think also
we'll have a link directly in the show notes.
Yeah. So basically my gifts are either or all and or a 30-minute chat with me about what you're up to next. If you're interested in being an author, how I can help. And also there's downloads there of 3 of my books that were out over the last year or two. And you can download those for free as a PDF. And yeah, I'd love to chat about any interest people have in the books or networking or stepping out in the whole world. A couple of the books that I'm working on right now, one's called Ripple Effect of Impact. And I think, so many of us, when we look at our lives, and again, most of us are wanting to create an impact in the world. And so we look at what have we been doing? How are we creating an impact?
Beautiful. Do you already have all your authors for that?
No, I've still got a few spots left. So
okay, I might chat about that later.
Okay.
So I want you to take the big scary thing out of it, right? Like it's not a big scary deal. But when people first are like, write a book, I don't know if I can do that. What would you say to them?
Well, working in my projects, I support the authors all the way through. And I would say anyone who really feels a calling to share their story, there is room in a book for you. And going forward next year, I'll have a whole collection of new projects. So there's something for everyone, inspiring and motivating.
Yes, and I just want to say, I've known people who thought forever, I need to write my memoir, it'll be so amazing, and they just never did it.
Yep.
Right, and that's sad. And so, Cathy is here, she's offering something, a free chat with her for 30 minutes, just to explore the possibility, and maybe, get started on that. Could be a lot of fun, and also bring personal rewards that you are not expecting.
Yes.
Well, Cathy, is there anything else you want to say before we go today?
Well, I just wanted to share one little quote that is one that I've really kind of focused a lot of my reminder when I'm looking at life. And it's a Howard Thurman quote, but it's don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. And I believe in that so much, that the more we each just find what it is that makes us come alive, that shift in energy, that positive energy that we're bringing into our life, I truly believe that that is what's going to shift this whole world out of whatever we're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming alive, being in... For me, it's really about bringing forth the authentic being, those soul essences that have been there and they've just been dimmed by all the programming. And we need full soul to show up and to light the paths for many others, for our planet, for the love of our planet.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for being here today, Cathy. And I just want to wish you an amazing day and just, give yourself a few moments to reflect and ask yourself, what is it I'd like to share? Start there.
All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye for now. All right. Thank you for joining us for this week's delicious episode. Before you jump off, I wanted to remind you to get entered in the raffle this month because I'm giving away more than $2,000 worth of prizes in both private sessions and actual cash. What are those prizes, you ask? Well, one of them is a private 75-minute soul light healing session with me. And that can be healing on various levels. It might be releasing trauma or tuning up your body or your emotions or clearing things like past lives and karma that's been, energetic debris holding you back. This session can be very helpful and sometimes have dramatic results in relationships, money, and in your health. And we're going to do that together on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. The second prize is a 60-minute coaching session with me, and that's also going to be on Zoom. So if you want support or clarity for your goals, like help with getting started with a project or just creating an action plan, that is going to be an amazing session. You'll be surprised at how much you come away with. The third prize is a personalized meditation that I will design especially for you. And of course, it's going to be yours to keep. So it's going to be fully personalized in terms of the content, and I will be speaking just to you so that you will be able to resonate with it and receive the maximum benefits that you want to create. Okay, now for the fun stuff, the cash. I have several cash prizes in various amounts. I've got several $50 prizes, $75 prizes, and $100 prizes. So you can see there are many opportunities to win here, and I just want to encourage you to be sure to play because you do need to play to win. All monetary prizes will be delivered through PayPal or Wise, and if you have a different currency, it'll be automatically converted for you. So as long as you have access to an Apple device, you can play. And all the instructions are available on our website at sayyes2yoursoulpodcast.com. That's sayyes2yoursoulpodcast.com. And if you need any support in completing your raffle entry, my team is ready to help you with that. You'll find their email on our webpage as well. So that's it. All the best to you, and may you say yes to your soul.